that to him, they was guard.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Huddle podcast. I'm Cole Bebart.
I'm Irvin Godinez.
And today we have a special guest on today. Played 4 years at Heidelberg University with them. Dimitri Penick, originally born in Fedsville, North Carolina, raised in Palm Beach, Florida, went to Dwyer High School, played football at Heidelberg University, where he graduated with his master's in business administration, participated in track and football at Heidelberg University. He's a 4-year letter winner at Heidelberg for football. 3-time All-OAC in football, as well as on the all-time leading scorers list for catches, touchdowns, receiving yards. Meach also participated in track and field at Heidelberg University for 2 years. He completed his bachelor's in communication and master's in business. And he's actually an owner of a nonprofit organization called Be the Change. Along with this, he's a board member for another business in Tiffin. As you can tell, Meach has many hats, and we're blessed to have him on here today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
I think you covered it all. Thanks for having me, man.
Yes,
we
sir.
talked about this for a little, so I'm excited to, get into this thing and hopefully, talk about some real things and have a good conversation. So I'm excited.
For sure.
Meach, obviously, he listed off all the things that you have done and accomplished so far. But let's just go ahead and start off with the sports. Just tell us where it all started for you.
Where it all really started, I was really just basketball at the beginning.
Okay.
Most people don't know, I was strictly basketball.
Yeah.
Because my brother, he was all basketball, and I always wanted to do everything he did.
Right.
So up to really, I'll say, my sophomore year in high school, I didn't play football, but then I met a guy named Coach Joe, and he got me into it. I always had a bigger frame, so my body was more, suitable for football. So he kind of pitched the idea, and I got into it, and it kind of got rolling there for my sophomore year. And then I didn't really get playing time until my senior year of high school, and made a few plays here and there. And Heidelberg came and visited me, and I went on my visit. Coach Fox was my recruiter. I went on my visit, met Jay Lou, Coach D, some other guys, Jake, and when I got there, just the culture was right. So that's really where it started there. It led me to Heidelberg, and then everything after that just, took care of itself.
So, that kind of takes us into the transition of the next question. What have sports in general done for you as a development as a person and even an athlete?
Man, so much. Like, I tell people, sports is really like another dad to me. And I think for everyone, things that you learn in sports, you can use that in life or anything. Let's just, stick to football alone. I think it's the ultimate team sport. You got 11 guys. If one person doesn't do their responsibility, the whole play is not going to work. To score a touchdown is very hard because if it's an 11-play drive, you have to have a lot of perfect plays. A lot of things have to go right. So just being part of team sports my whole life, I was able to learn how to work with people, which is something that relates directly to the business world. Some things that I learned from football is just one team, one beat. That's what we say at Heidelberg all the time.
Yeah,
that's another thing that directly correlates to the business world, because every business, we have processes, we have guides, and we have a way that we do things, right?
Yeah.
If you have one small piece that, breaks that chain, then the picture gets broken. And that's what football teaches you in other sports, is just everything, and it's always bigger than you. Every piece, someone else relies on someone else to be successful. And that's just also life, business. We all need each other, because life is hard to begin with.
For sure.
So football taught me that, life lessons, how to lead, how to communicate with different people, how, everyone's not the same. So how I communicate with you and what might get you going might not get him going.
Yeah, for sure.
So it teaches you how to lead people. It teaches you family, teaches you to be there for one another, and also to do your job, because that person's dependent on you. So if I don't block on this bubble, you might get your head taken off. So all those things, just everything, team-based, family, love, leadership, communication, it teaches you all these life lessons, and the coaches are just like parents who's just there for you as a person.
So before we kind of go on to the next question, I kind of want to elaborate off of that. Have you always had that development, or was when you first got to Heidelberg, would you say that Heidelberg developed you more than your high school and your upbringing, or would you say there was kind of a collaboration of both in a sense?
When you say develop, you talking about my values, morals, and what?
Yeah, so I talked to Key when he was on here, Cunningham, I was talking to him about like how, you know, he wasn't as disciplined his freshman year. He was talking back to coaches. He wasn't really bought in. And then all of a sudden, bro, like if you flip a switch and then he is completely professional. He's always grinding, always trying to be better and progress. And was that kind of similar, like a similar situation for you?
A little bit different. Also, I laughed just because I had flashbacks like he was a freshman. I remember we talked about it all the time. Like, he was a knucklehead. He has came a long way.
Yeah.
But I would say I always had that foundation just from, my family, my dad and mom, brother, and then also the Vecchios, a family. I also very close and used to live with them.
Yeah.
Always had that foundation. Also, other great coaches who were teaching me values and instilling them in me. And so, at a young age, something that my parents always told me is you always treat everyone with respect. Always treat your elders with respect.
Yeah.
So I always knew that wasn't an option. That's the foundation.
Yeah.
I also knew like they set the standard from the beginning. Even if college isn't needed, I knew I was going to college. And not saying that's the only way to be successful, because it's not. But I knew I was going to college like that was the foundation. So
yeah.
I'll say from the start, my family, coach, and everyone, they sent me off with the foundation. But then Heidelberg's coaches and everyone else in Tiffin and around, whoever I built relations with, they developed it, built it up.
Yeah.
But I went in with the foundation, but it just needed nurturing.
You were talking about school a little bit, so I want to just jump into that since we're already there. Why was it important to you to get your master's degree, and kind of just talk about like the situation with school and everything that you accomplished there?
So honestly, going in, like the master's degree was not in the cards at all. Like even when we get to that last season, my original plan, the only reason I got my master's because J. Lou, my receivers coach, told me I would be stupid to just leave and not get it. I mean, he's right, and I appreciate him for I tell him this day, like I'm so grateful for him not letting me leave after football.
Oh, for sure.
So originally my plan was to go into that final season I had played and finish off my eligibility, and then after the season was over, just start training for my pro day and leave school. And I'm glad I didn't do that because at the end of the day, I ended up getting hurt anyway, and that's why football is temporary. So I was fortunate enough and grateful enough to have that degree to fall back on. But originally, that master's degree was not in the plans one bit. Like it was just I was there for football, and school is what I just had to do to fulfill my dreams.
Yeah, because like I don't know, I was kind of doing a little bit of research. Obviously, like I know a lot about you. Like we played ball together. But I noticed the Draft Diamonds, the interview that you had with them going into that senior year when you got your sprained PCL, right?
Torn PCL, yeah.
Torn PCL. And I was reading that, and I'm like, oh yeah, he wanted to go pro there for a minute. But like
A hot minute.
how did that like develop you? You know what I mean? How did that situation? I'm sure it probably
Of getting hurt.
Yeah.
That was like the start, I feel like, of my development. With some other things I was dealing with, because at that point I hadn't found my faith, which I have now.
Yeah.
But that was kind of starting leading me to that. So when I first tore my PCL, I was depressed. Like football's everything I have at that point. Like that's because I put so much, my whole life into dedicating everything into training, taking care of my body, not eating much because I want to make sure I'm in the peak shape. So
Yeah.
I give myself the best opportunity to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So my preparation reflected that. So when I got hurt my knee, I felt like I lost everything because I sacrificed time with family, cookouts. I was sacrificed. Like, hey, I really want to be there, but I got to work. I got to focus on this right now because this is my dream. So when I got hurt, it was very challenging. I went into depression, and then I went through the rehab process, but still not submitting to God for the answers, starting to fix everything myself. Next season rolls around, and luckily I was able to have one more year eligibility because I got hurt my freshman year in that red shirt, and then I got hurt again. So
yeah, you did.
Still not submitting to God and trying all these things that the world tells you to. So like I'm surrounding myself with family. I'm leaning on my mom and dad, asking them, telling them everything that's going on, looking for advice. I'm laying on Parker's floor every night just to keep someone around me because they say you don't want to be alone. So I did it. I tried everything that man says to do. And you can ask Parker. I was laying on his floor, just sitting there, and then going on walks with Kofor in the middle of the night, just to be with someone, trying it. Still, it wasn't getting better, and I'll be honest. I got to the point where I have had a gun to my head before. So I tell people, I know how you feel. I've been to that side, and it hurts very much so. But just how I know how that feels. I've also been fortunate enough to know how this feels when I go to God and go to that one solution. I was trying everything else and didn't work. So it's like I've seen that side, and I know what you feel. So you haven't seen this side. Let me show you this
Yeah.
side too, and also show you what I did to get here. And that's where I tell people, like, I really can relate because I really have felt it. Like,
Yeah.
I've been hurt 1,000 times, but by the grace of God, I was able to keep getting up and moving forward. And I'm very thankful for the hard times I went through, because what I tell people, you can never help someone and you can never truly understand unless you go through it and you feel it. Because if you don't go through it and you don't feel it, then it's just an idea and you're just seeing it and you're guessing what it's like.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's a lot of, like, everybody kind of tries to focus on the worldly solution. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
like,
yes.
everybody's trying to focus on, like, oh, I'm just gonna go out with my friends more. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go do the
Tried it.
rah-rah, do all that stuff, and it's not about that sometimes. Sometimes it's about, you know, I always talk to my dad about, like, you know, the Bible. When my senior year, that second semester, I read the New Testament all over again, and I went home after spring break, and I went and sat down with my dad, and I'm like, you know, I wish that each chapter and book in the Bible, I mean, would pop up when you need it. You know what I mean? Like, every chapter is different. Everybody's story is different, and some resonate with you heavy, like some scripture does. And my dad goes, well, I mean, there's probably devotionals out there that have that. So then, you know, fast forward the following week, my grandma gives me my Easter gift. And it was like a seasonal devotional for athletes. And dude, it was like it was like
Everything you needed.
it was right there. And like, I was just talking to my dad about this. It was just like such a coincidence and real. Like, it was like somebody heard me say that I needed this. And so
You're always on time.
and so, like, I read that, and it was crazy because every day you're supposed to read one page of this devotional. And it was like every single day I was just like, I can connect this to some facet of my life. And I don't know, like, and then I left school. You know, that transition was hard, and I mean, I'm sure we'll get to that. And there's books I started reading, and I never read in school, dude. It was like, I mean, I was doing photo math. Whatever I was doing.
That's the secret key. Reading it. That's the key.
I was trying to get by, but then, like, my boss came and he goes, have you tried reading before? He's like, dude, if you read, you're going to feel so intelligent. And so, like, I started reading, and I was reading all these other people's stories and all this and that, and it was just like, man, they're right.
Do you know why reading has that effect?
They're right.
Like, do you know why reading, like, improves your mood so much and, like, your way of thinking?
Why?
Like, what people don't understand is, like, when you read, you're expanding your vocab.
Yeah.
So also what you're doing when you're doing that, you're also expanding your perspective, which also you're expanding your
Perspective's huge.
perspective. You're expanding how you view the world. One thing, I can't remember which, I think it was a speech from Miss Lazar's, one of her conferences. They did a research on women's prison, and something that they found that everyone had in common that they weren't expecting to find is everyone had a very small vocab.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Everyone's perspective of the world is very small. If your vocab is small, your imagination is very small, and you're going to live in a small world because that's all that you can see for yourself. So when you start reading books and you're expanding this vocab and you're learning new things, seeing new things that you never even thought about, also your perspective of your world is growing.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, because I tell people life is all about perspective, because at the end of the day, you're not right, I'm not right, there's no right or wrong,
No.
but because it's all just
How you see
ideas from someone else, but we didn't make this world, and it's not a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I tell people, like, everyone thinks they know something, but none of us know anything. Rather, it's just what we choose to believe. And that's what, like, it's either you believe in man, believe in God. And I'm not choosing for anyone, but rather just letting people recognize, like, we don't know anything. That's why the Bible tells you, the fool thinks he knows something, but the wise understands he knows nothing. Because let's say you're going to say these shoes are the best for you, right? We don't really know, but it's just someone told you that, and that's you believe them. And that's okay. And I choose to believe God over man, because the Bible also says, never trust man, because he's going to let you down every time.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I still don't know anything because I haven't seen it with my eyes. But it's what I believe. I believe his words, and I believe he created all. It makes sense. And me personally, I know he's very real, and that's just me because of my faith.
Oh, for sure.
But we never know anything. It's just what we choose to believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meech, I want to go back a little bit because I feel like it's something that people could relate to. You know, and so like Cole said, he was doing his research. He knew you, obviously. I didn't know you at all, so I wanted to make sure that I came prepared for you. So I was looking through your Instagram, right? I see your post about getting your master's degree. And in the caption, you wrote, "I've always loved to learn, but you don't need a degree to be educated." And I feel like a lot of people could relate to that. And for me, example, you got your degrees, you went to school, you did the whole thing. I didn't go to school, right? So I after high school, but here I have my own business that I didn't need any degree, and I'm making the money that I wanted to do with doing the thing that I love. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
I mean, that's one of my favorite sentences I wrote, just because everything in life is a teacher if you let it be. So you can be educated if you'll listen to the teachers, but choose your teachers wisely. Choose who you're listening to. So like everything I've been through, I understand that everything has a lesson. You just got to look for it. And that's where you can become educated out of your mistakes, as we should, is that's what mistakes are for. Mistakes aren't to be ashamed of and to feel bad about it. No, it happened. Okay, let's learn from it to fix it and prevent it from happening again. And none of us are perfect. So that's what that means, is just you don't have to go to college and sit in a classroom to learn. Honestly, I think you learn better from experience and doing things and going through stuff. The most beneficial thing for me through college and learning-wise was the networking. When I tell people that that's the thing that I think college has, the main thing it's for, that helps people, but unfortunately people don't use that benefit to how they should, is that's the main resource. Because in college, you're in a big bubble with a big group of people, everyone coming from different places. So it's a very good opportunity to widen and broaden your perspective, because when I came from Florida, and you can probably relate where you came from, there's a lot of people that they went to high school with not many black people. Some people that went to high school with not many white people. So you're going to have people who have these views of what they're told about people, but with this opportunity to surround yourself with these people and actually meet them and talk to, you get to hear that their perspective might just not be what everyone's told you about them. And that helps people understand it's not about your color. It's not about, where you come from, rather your character. That is what describes a person. Now, where you come from, does it have an effect? Yes, because we're a product of our environment. But that's why after that, going to college helps you, because you meet new people. And now you have the choice to change your environment, to surround yourself with a lot of people who think differently. And that's why I tell you, if you sit in a room with only people who think just like you and at the same, it's no growth in that. You're wasting your time. I want to sit in a room with everyone who disagrees with me, because I know I'm not right. It's just my idea, and we can sit here and talk, and then as a group decide on an idea that we all think is the most, compatible for all of us. Because like I said, no one's right, but we can all agree on an idea that we think is the best for this situation. And that's what I think is the most beneficial thing about college, is that you get a chance, if you take advantage of it, to meet a whole bunch of new people with different perspectives and that grew up totally different, or some that grew up totally the same but look totally different. And that's what I think college is really for. But no, you don't have to go there to sit in a classroom to learn. You can learn from anything, and we should.
So how does that, so as far as college goes, you said it, you are around people from completely different areas. Some people were even out of the country that are going to school with us, man. And how did leaving Florida, coming to Ohio, seeing all the people from different demographics, different areas, different religions, different faiths, different skin tones, how did that affect you as far as wanting to travel after school? Because I know we just talked before we got on the camera, 80% travel.
I'll say personally, it didn't change much of that for myself, just because I'll say I was blessed enough to be able to not judge people by their look.
Oh, for sure.
But for me, it was more of I had the opportunity to teach people about myself and to help them see that what the world has told people, what has told them, what people that look like me act like, isn't always true. Is it sometimes true? Yes, but that's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
As that same description is also sometimes true about someone who looks like someone totally different. And that's where I use more the opportunity to purposely fit stereotypes, to have tattoos, dreads, and Wolverine, all these things that people have put labels on that this person's ignorant. Okay, no, so I did that on purpose. So you see this image, and then when you talk to me, see it's totally different, because that gives you the opportunity to see, okay, maybe I should start listening to people first and get to know them before making judgment.
Read into it a little bit.
Yeah,
sure, yeah.
So I always challenged the status quo and did things differently, or purposely bought into stereotypes and the means of what it looks like.
For sure.
Because my actions aren't going to be that. And that goes directly with how some people, they'll say they're followers of God or follower of this. They'll say everything the right way.
For sure.
But their walk doesn't go with it. And it's like the opposite of what I'm doing.
You can't like characterize somebody just by looking at them.
No.
You simply can't. And like you
You
said,
can, but it's not right. It's not,
it's not always gonna be
it won't
right.
work.
I mean, simply like there's people that we played ball with, even I'll admit it, like people I didn't even know. And they'd walk in, I'm just like, oh gosh, like, come on. But then those same people would end up being my best friends.
You never know you're gonna get your blessings
Exactly, man. And it's like you cannot, you know, I said it once in one of our old podcast episodes. You can't judge somebody if you don't know them. So instead of judging, listen.
And that's what we never judge, because we never know the full story.
For sure.
Because if you step on my toe right now, it's easy for me to get mad at you and say you're a bad person for that one action. But one, I didn't know what happened to you prior in your life, just today. And then even if I did, I also didn't know what was your childhood like. How were you raised? What did everyone teach you? And that's why what I tell people, we're never to judge, because at the end of the day, we never know the full story. And that's why it's only one person who judges, because he's the only one who knows all. He's the only one who's walked with you from the beginning to where you are now. We don't. We know nothing. But everyone is so quick to judge. And 90% of the time, the people who are judging what they're judging on, they do the same things themselves. And that's why it says, like, don't, before you judge him, take the plank out your own. Like, we all have our issues.
It's a very, interesting time that we're kind of growing up in right now. Like, I feel like we grow up in an environment of negativity and judgment. And I feel like, that's part of the reason why me and Irv started this thing. The Huddle is like to get a positive message out, to spread description about faith and our journey in sport. And like, both of us have completely different stories. Like, Irv tore his ACL and then it started his business. But me and Irv think just alike, like spread a positive message, continue down a positive path, and help somebody or hear something you need to hear. And that's just like, that's kind of what we do and, what we're about.
Cole listed off all the great things that you accomplished on the field, right? A lot of achievements. And one thing that I want to keep asking these college athletes to hopefully inspire the younger guys, because I feel like you're not going to be good, you're not going to be great, you're not going to be the best if you don't do things like this. So my question to you is, what kind of stuff did you do outside of the team workouts and stuff? Like, what did you do in the dark that people don't know about?
He got a kick out of that one. So first I'll say that's a great question. But the back half of it, it's never a set formula of what's going to work, because what worked for me may not work for him or you. You know what I mean? Everything's trial and error. You got to learn your body and just learn to see what reacts and works the best for you. Through my time, I was, like my whole life, I've always been the black sheep. My sophomore year, I wanted to get faster, so during spring ball, I ran track, and at first I had pushback, which is okay, it was different. But when the results started translating to the field, I was starting to get more support. But I ran track in the off season a lot to improve my speed. It was huge for a receiver and explosion. But I'll say the things that I did in the dark that probably many don't know about, but some do, is I did a lot of yoga to help with my hip mobility and flexibility. Is because, I think what many fail to recognize is hip mobility is very important in your speed, because it helps your stride length and, cover more ground in a more efficient manner and do everything with your body in the most efficient ways, and also prevent injury. So I did a lot of yoga, mostly running. The last 2 years of my season outside, I didn't lift as much. It was more of explosion, quick twitch, change of direction, hip mobility, and just getting faster and explosive and running routes. Definitely running routes. Like, got to run routes and work on coming flat, the little things, dropping your hips, the details. But I'll say that's the biggest thing I probably said most didn't know from my training is the yoga.
I think freshman year.
I just know you about to say something crazy. I see you laughing.
I think freshman year we got done with a ball practice. Elijah, a quarterback. Elijah, he was the JV starting quarterback my freshman year. And I think it was we all like everybody was like 8 o'clock yoga up in the studio, and dude, they're like getting to the downward dog position, and I was like struggling to touch my toes this time because we just got done with a 3-hour practice, and you got Meech and Elijah over here like touching their toes, doing the splits, whatever, dude. I'm just like, I can't do it.
Loosen the hips, man.
No, but that kind of takes me into another question. We bonfires, senior bonfires, and all the different traditions of Heidelberg football, and the university and the people there. Sarah Lazari, is her last name. Yep. That's one of your favorite professors, man.
I have many too.
Like Professor Det was one of my favorites.
Amazing, one of my favorites too.
And I want to hear about Heidelberg University and Heidelberg football, what it's done for you, some of your favorite people, some of your favorite memories, and the value you have for that university.
Favorite people, that's hard, just as like so many people like help me so many ways. So I don't like to put numbers on it, but rather like if you help me, help is help. Just like no sin is greater than another, no amount of help is great. Help is help, and you help me move forward. But some of the key people that I'll say, but I'll probably forget some, and I apologize. But Miss Berg, Professor Berg, Lisa, Miss Rosick, Heaton, Detwire, like you said. So many, man. It's more, but I don't want to focus on it too much. But then, like coaches, like I was like, whole coaching staff's all been there for me in different ways. And you can go back to GAs like Blake. I love Coach Blake. Charles, the track GA, Joe Yoder. I'm going to my track, Coach Brian Grime. But like any other coaches, like they've helped me in so many ways. Who am I forgetting?
You're forgetting one coach
Lewis?
that you spend a lot of time in his office.
I was about to say, because Lewis, he know it. J. Lou and Lewis, that's easy.
J. Lou, bro.
That's like him, like, but it's hard to like.
That's where you got your biceps from. You and J. Lou be hitting biceps.
He got his biceps from me. Don't let him fool you. Like, he'll tell you he dropped me. Like, I'll be bullying that man. But J. Lou for sure. Lewis, Coach D, Jake, like all like family, especially J. Lou. Like when I was in my hardest times, I was talking about earlier. Like, you can ask. There's many times in his office at 6 in, before lifting or right after, and him and calling, I'm crying because I'm just leaning on them.
Yeah.
But like he's been there with me for every step of the way, and he's still there with me. I know we're locked in for life, but that's also just Heidelberg. That's that culture. Like it's family, and that's why it's hard to just give you a list because
too many.
Yeah, everyone I really interacted with
for sure
is help. If you ask, they will help. And like I can't tell you a time where I can remember off the top of my head where I asked for something to help me and I was told no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that kind of makes you think about like how giving and how like much all these coaches, all these professors are there for you. Like I said, Linda Detweiler, my communications professor, my public speaking professor. Whenever there was something bad going on in my life, I think you know what I'm about to talk about. Mm-hmm. There's a dance that she had us do, and I would show up. I would show up to the class, and it was always on speaking days. And I like after my buddy passed away back here at home, she got me a basket and sat it on my desk that day, and I had a speech, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember her making us do the spaghetti dance twice because she wanted me to have a better day. And this was like, I feel like a noodle. Like she would have us get up and act like we were stiff spaghetti until we got put in the water, and then we were noodles. And I don't know, it's just like small stuff like it's just like small stuff like that, dude, that like
little things.
It sticks with you. And there's a lot of different, incidents that happen. Coaches showing up to your dorms whenever you're not feeling well or like you need to talk to somebody, they're there. All of your roommates, your teammates, and everybody.
That's what I tell you. That's what it's all about. Like, it takes this bit of effort to just make someone's day so much better.
For sure.
Just show that you recognize and are aware of what they're going through, and just show that you care, and like that makes a big difference. It doesn't take much effort.
Oh, we were going to translate into like our next phase of life a little bit, like, football and athletics had a huge impact on us for years and years and years. And, let's talk about that transition from being an athlete in college and being devoted to your sport and it being what you eat, sleep, breathe, all of it. And then talk to me about how your transition from being an athlete into your professional career has been, whether it's been hard or not, and what you've kind of learned.
Definitely hard and challenging. I think that was one of the biggest hurdles, new change of pace of when football was over and it really being over, not having meetings and workouts. It was nothing to prepare for and really go all in. Like,
for sure.
It wasn't something that I feel like I was struggling to find something that challenged me the way football did, where I was always chasing something. And that was the biggest challenge. And that's why everyone says, like, after football, whatever sport it is, it's very hard to find your identity again, because this is our whole life. And for me, it was trying to find something that really lit that passion again in me. That was something that I knew it was going to take me chasing every day for me to be successful, and that was hard for me to find. So it was something I struggled with for a while. I was trying to find a hobby or something to keep my time, and struggled for a long time, getting into the word help for sure. And as time went on, coming up with Be the Change, that was what finally brought my passion back, and that's something that was a huge challenge because it was totally new. I had to learn 100% how to keep up with my books really, and really get back in and reteach myself fully accounting and all these things, because I'm in control 100%. I had to challenge myself to get organized. Is one of my biggest areas of opportunity always was my organization.
Yeah.
So I had to be organized and learn how to get organized for this to work. So I had to sharpen those skills there. And then also I knew every day I need to do something to move this forward, because the biggest difference between a successful new business and a new business that doesn't work out is just one person never considered that it wouldn't work and was going to do everything he could until it works. And failing isn't even in his mind. And the other person, as soon as like that hard time comes or someone tells them his idea is stupid, they believe it.
Yeah.
And they let it go. Rather, the successful, they don't hear that. Rather, they know if they hear someone call their idea stupid, they just know the idea was too big for their mental capacity.
Yeah.
And they just didn't tell the right person that idea. So having that mindset, it was like football again, because I just knew, like, either you're with me or against me, but either way, I'm going to move forward. I prefer you to be with me. But if you don't, then I appreciate you too, because I'm going to use you for fuel, saying I can't do this, because I'm going to show you when I do.
Yeah.
Not in a negative or cocky way, but in a positive way that I don't know when it's going to work, but I just know it's going to work, and I'm going to come back and just see this mission, like, remember this? There is something
that, like, there's just something about being a part of something bigger than yourself. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And as an athlete, you weren't always the best. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you started from ground zero and
That's
you
the
worked your
best.
way up. And that's like why, like, I feel like you see all these athletes and former people, like, that had aspirations of progressing in a sport or any of this stuff. They're like, oh man, it was such a pleasure to be a part of something bigger than myself, so I'm going to create something bigger.
Man, and that's when you get to that, you also get to the point where you realize everything is always bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
Everything. And then what I told, I was like, I never want to start at the top. Why would I? No, I'd rather start at the bottom, because I get to go through the process. And if you start at the top means nothing to you, because you started there and
Yeah.
it was just given to you. And if you go through the process, you went through the hard times, you struggled, you got told you weren't good enough many times, and you had to go back, lick your wounds, and come back and get back up. You had to have mistakes and little mini lessons, and then getting to that point, what I tell feels like life is just like sports. We're talking about the process. Everything is about the process, including life. Because if we didn't have any hard times, we didn't have any struggles, we didn't have any negatives, what would be the value of winning, right? It would just be the default. It would just be. It will feel nothing, mean nothing. The negative, the challenges is what gives the good value, and the good is what gives the negative value. And that's what I tell, everything is needed. And that's why I don't complain about anything. Rather, if something bad happens, I thank God for it. Because if something really bad happens, I know a really big blessing's coming. Going in with that mindset, having faith, and that's
Absolutely.
Life is like, you need it. We need it all, just like we need each other.
You ever heard the saying, God gives his toughest battles to the strongest soldiers? After COVID happened and we were losing everybody, lost our teammate, I lost some people back at home. I was scrolling obviously, as we usually do when we're just laying in bed and doing nothing. And during COVID at that time, I was scrolling, and I saw that phrase pop up 3 times, and I was like,
You a soldier, baby.
I was like, man, like, but it wasn't just me. Like, it just hit so deep. Like, such a short phrase that hits so deep. Like, this is happening for a reason. I'm gonna see my way through it, and there's always gonna be that light at the end of the tunnel, no matter what you think.
Yep, and to go along with that, he also tells you, God doesn't give us anything we can't handle. Like, what I try to help you understand is, like, with what you're saying, with how he gives it to his toughest soldiers. What we do in our society, we reduce people to their mistakes. Like, that is what we label them as, their mistakes. When we do that, we prevent them the opportunity to grow. And then I challenge him with the question, what if we reduce Moses to his mistakes? Because Moses was a murderer. A lot of things would be different. And that's what the Bible tells us. We are all broken. We are all made of sin. We've all made many mistakes. So when we go into reducing people to their mistakes, is what we do in the prison cell. We don't help people get brought back into the real world. Rather, that's why people go back. When you reduce people's mistakes, it just keeps them where they are. It doesn't give them opportunity to grow. But at the end of the day, that's not fair. First of all, because we're imperfect, and all of us, where we're here today, someone gave us a second chance. Someone gave us another opportunity. Everyone who's where they are today, at some point, someone gave you a second chance. And that's why we are to give others a second chance, because we also are given grace from God. As what people don't understand, grace is an undeserving favor. It's recognized as not deserved, but we still give it. Why? Because it was given to us. We don't deserve this life we're living. Because everything God asks us to do, he did everything himself 1,000 times more. People don't understand is the Old Testament, we were under the jurisdiction of the 10 Commandments. So what does that mean? If you went against this, and like Moses committed murder, at that point, Moses, people don't know, Moses couldn't go to heaven at first. If Jesus wanted to, he could have made it easy and made the pathway to heaven faith at the beginning. But no, he loved us so much and wanted us to know how much he loved us. He made the jurisdiction, the 10 Commandments, allowed Moses to commit murder, just so Jesus could come back to go through everything 1,000 times more and then die for our sins to fix it, to fix something he could have just started. Because he could have started it by faith. But Moses couldn't enter heaven until Jesus died for our sins because he committed murder. And that's what I tell, when you understand that, how God really did put himself through all these things he didn't have to do, because he could have easily did it from the beginning. That's how much he wanted to show he was sacrificing, how much he loved for us, and that he's the greatest leader we know, because everything he asks us to do, he's done at 1,000 times level, and he's still doing it now because he's always working and watching. And it's like we don't deserve anything we have, and it's all through the grace of God. And that's why we are to give others grace, because we're all imperfect, and someone gave us grace and still does.
All of it ties up into just kind of being the kind of person you are, right? And I don't want to go by without talking about it, because we've already mentioned it a few times, but I want you to go into detail and talk about what is Be the Change.
Be the Change is a nonprofit, and what we're going for is to provide, help, educate, change. Excuse me. The biggest thing is really just giving back. That's the basis of it, but not limiting our help monetarily, because what I tell people is, like, money is not the only way you can help someone. It's also not the best way you can help someone. Rather, we're also helping giving knowledge, resources that help me, and also when I have a team, things that help them get to where they are. Because knowledge is everything, and I could give you a fish and feed you today, or to teach a man to fish, you fed a man for a lifetime. And that's why the main thing is giving people knowledge, books that help myself and others be successful. And so, like, if you have young leaders, it's for everyone, because everyone needs to learn, continuously learn. But also young people who may be in an environment that they don't have the resources, or someone's telling them, things that can help develop them and give them a little bit of a head start. Yeah. There'll be a link on the page where it has books with important skills or books with leadership skills, and it's currently being worked on now and finished. But for me, I always reference Discover Your True North. That helps you find your true self, and also your specific leadership style. As we all know, it's not one specific leadership style that works for all, or it's not one style that's for everyone. It's many different things that pertains to your morals, values, and who you are as a person. And it helped me I also found my leadership style, but also discovered that I was very insecure in school, which helped me get to where I am now.
Yeah.
Reading that book helped me know that I was insecure, and learning that helped me understand that that's why none of my relationships were working. Because if you don't love yourself, you can never love anyone else properly, the right way. You can love, but it won't be the right way in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And that's, at some point, will push those people you really do love away because it's just not being delivered properly. And it also helped me realize that I was, at some point when I was going through my challenges, I was starting to lose myself in the process. When I started, we was talking about earlier, at the parties and doing all these things that doesn't fix the issue. It just hides it for a little, suppresses it. Yeah. And what I would always tell my closest friends during that time was, yeah, it's nice in the moment, even the lustful part, but at some point, that party ends, them lights go off, and you got to sit in that dark room and do it yourself at some point. And that hurts every time. But because we're ignorant, we're not opening the Bible yet, and we're still trying it over and over again. Every time we're going to keep doing it, but even if we're doing the lustful things too, now you're giving small pieces of yourself away every time. And you don't realize it in that moment, but once you heal and you do learn yourself, you're like, damn, you regret it. Like, I hurt myself 1,000 times more than I had to. But I don't regret any of it because I needed to go through that. And I learned, I understand now. And that's what Discover Your True North did for me. And then Crucial Conversations, it helps you how to communicate with people. So like if we work together, and let's say I'm your boss and I have to address an issue. When I bring you in to deliver this in a way that you'll hear it before I even address the issue, I just communicate my intentions. And I'm like, hey, before I even, discuss this, I want to let you know my intentions are to upset you, offend you, or make you feel like I'm attacking you. Rather, it's just an area of opportunity that we need to improve, and we just continue to talk about it. And also, I appreciate everything you're doing here. You're doing great here. We just got to fix this. Then deliver that message. When you communicate your intentions, what it's called is you create that safe space. The safe space where you can pretty much communicate anything without anyone feeling offended. And if it's a longer conversation, then you have to recreate that safe space. Like if I see that your facial expressions are starting to get twisted or like getting frustrated, step out the safe box and recreate and be like, hey, I just want to let you know, not want you to feel offended and whatnot. And that's why when you truly communicate, it's not just talking, but also monitoring and observing their facial and their reactions, their verbal and nonverbal cues. And that's also the biggest part of communicating. What I tell people is active listening. The biggest part of communicating isn't the talking. It's that you can listen, because what I tell people that most people aren't aware of, it's only 2% of people who have actual training on active listening. So what's that tell us is that's why most conversations where we're trying to get solutions never profitable, because it's just two people who are not listening, but rather just pushing their own agenda. And what the average person would do is, while you're talking and giving your response, instead of listening to you, I'm thinking of my response and how I'm going to respond to you.
Without listening.
And at that point, I'm not hearing anything you're saying. I'm only thinking about my side. So I've closed off your perspective, so I'm talking to a wall. And just as I'm talking to a wall, you're talking to a wall. So we're just making noise. It's not a conversation.
I mean, it's crazy that you say this, because like my management and where I'm at, they are always talking about leading from the heart and not leading from an ego. Like when you're given news, like you said, you're doing great here and here and here, but we need to fix this. And we see this for you, so this has to get better. Like stuff like that, like lead from the heart is a huge thing that I live by. Like,
and to do that, you got to leave the ego at the door. You got
to
that should have been dealt with before you stepped in that leadership position. Like egos and pride. Like, nah, can't have that.
So like, be the change essentially is like you trying to crush that barrier and help others understand that.
Crush the barrier of egos and pride first, but also crush the barriers of everyone having too much of pride to show their love and vulnerability. Because to be able to lead, you got to be able to be vulnerable first. And what I mean by that is make sure that your team knows it's okay to make mistakes, and rather I want you to make mistakes. And to do that, you have to make mistakes and be okay with it in front of them and openly tell them I made a mistake here. Okay, well now what can we do now?
Yeah.
And what that does is when they make mistakes, you don't rebuke them, you praise them, say, no big
You'll
thing.
learn,
I
yeah.
appreciate, because I appreciate that you made a decision and went with it and trusted yourself. And when you do that, now your team, you're going to build a team where more people are making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because why do I want to be the only one with an idea? Like I said, we none of us know anything.
Mm-hmm.
So the more ideas, the better. But the only way you're going to get ideas if you make your team or allow your team to be comfortable to mess up. Because we're all going to mess up.
For sure.
Is if we try this one thing and it doesn't work, that's fine, but it wasn't a loss. We can take everything that did work, bring it to the second trial, and remove what didn't, and then go from there and make adjustments. Sports, adjustments. It's about adjustments.
100%.
And that's what everything, it ties back to sports. And that's what it's all about, man. Like, mistakes, you got to be open, like the vulnerability piece of it. You got to be open and get to know and lead from the heart, but you can't have ego and pride, and that's what be the change. Trying to help people to know not only is it okay to be open and vulnerable, but it's good, and we need more of it, because the number one reason of suicide is people lacking the sense of belonging. And what does that come from? They don't feel loved. And it's not because they're not loved, because that's not true, but rather they don't feel it. And the only way people will feel it is if I'm open enough to show it. And that's why we need each other. And that's why, for me to understand that, and that's why I say everything has a lesson. When I was at those times where I was dealing with depression and suicide, the only thing that kept me from doing that before I found faith was my support system. And I couldn't do that to my dad. I couldn't do that to my mom, my brother. I couldn't do that to Jalen, all the coaches. But I knew I was loved because I was fortunate to have people who showed me I was loved. What's stopping someone who doesn't feel loved and that they don't care about it? Nothing. I'm going to do this, no one care anyway. It's not true, but they don't feel it. And that's why it's important to show that we love people.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. No one teaches about the Bible verse when Jesus tells people, it's like, to be a man is to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
As he says, I'm going to botch it because I don't know the word for word, but he tells you this thing that we do here of holding everything inside and wait until we fully trust someone to open up. I have already told you to never trust man. We're waiting on something that'll never come. You're never going to fully trust man. So what you're doing is foolish. It's foolish. Open up and be open, because that's to heal ourselves and talk about it.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of it, if I confide in you and I trust you with my information, let's say you do go back and tell people, okay? If you're comfortable with who you are and you love yourself and you know who you are, that doesn't matter, but rather you just know going forward, you're aware of how that person moves and what you can trust and what you can't.
Yeah.
And it's like, but him, who he tells, doesn't affect you one bit. And that's on him, because I did this in good intentions, and we can never control how anyone reacts. We can only control how we react and what we do and our intentions, and never be concerned with what anyone else does with that. That's on them and they're negative, and they'll have to answer to God.
Yeah.
And that's why just getting open to be vulnerable. To be a man is to be vulnerable. And unfortunately, we don't have many men out here, because the easy thing, we're taking the easy road of holding everything inside.
Like, silence is the key now these days.
Silence is a trap.
So, that kind of takes me to the next question is, how were you inspired to start this brand and start this business and, kick this thing off?
I'll say it started with when I was young. Like, I thought football was going to be the way I use my platform to help people. I always had the foundation out. I want to help people give back. So that was always there. The brand specifically, throughout my life, always, one of my favorite quotes is Gandhi, be the change that you want to see in the world. It's always had that foundation. And then one day, a friend of mine showed me the mugs that she makes, and I was like, dang, these are really nice. Yeah. So at first I was just going to start a brand that was simply coffee mugs. And that same night, I went home and I'm thinking about it. And I think I had to come across maybe that quote again. And I'm thinking, be the change. Okay, this would be a good name. This is what I want to do. And I start brainstorming everything, and it goes from mugs to, shirts and the message and brainstorm. I was up probably 4 a.m. And when I get to the bottom of it, I'm like, this is the one.
Yeah.
But it literally just went from that night of brainstorming. God was just putting all these things on my heart and my mind. I'm just writing everything down. And then I'm fine-tuning it, constructing it. And then when I got to the end, I was like, this is real. Like, this can do something. This can make a positive change. And that's what led me to there.
For sure.
Before I give Florida, Cole, to finish it off, I just kind of want to know what kind of things you would say to some younger athletes to make sure that they're successful in what they do, but also not just being on the field and stuff, but like you've talked about, just being mentally okay and having that relationship with God.
First, I'll say never lose. If you lose, it's because you decided to. Something that I've learned is something that I notice now is like we always, after you come up short on the scoreboard, we say we lost, right?
Loss is a win.
But when we lose, when you use that word loss, you're adding such a negative connotation to yourself and your mindset you don't even know. To lose is to be deprived of. It's never that deep. It's a game. And that's why I say don't lose, but rather let it be a lesson. Don't lose, but learn. And that's why if you have that mindset, you can never lose. You just take what you learn to the next game. That would be my first thing. Tackle your mindset. Always think positive, optimistically, and take the good out of everything, because there is a positive and there is a lesson in every situation. So first, go in understanding that. Second, I don't want to say, like, personally, I lean on God, but I don't like to choose people, but study religions, different ones, and then make a decision for yourself. Because there are different religions that also are similar to Christianity that serve the same God. And the Bible doesn't say not to do any different religions, but just serve one God, which is Him. And there's other religions that do only serve Him. So I'll say first, study many religions, and then so you also have awareness of everything and broaden your perspective. And I know the road's going to lead back to the God, the King of Kings, but do that for yourself. Read and take that initiative and build your faith. Because I tell people, if you don't believe in anything, or if you fail to believe in something, you'll fall for anything. You got to have a faith. And then if we're just talking about sports specifically, I don't care if you're the most talented or what tools you do have, sharpen what you do have and outwork everybody, because the one thing that we can control every day is our effort.
Absolutely.
And if you outwork everyone at some point, you're going to catch them. It might not be today, tomorrow, or next week, or this year. It's going to take time, but that's the beauty in it, because you're going to catch them, and when they start to hear you getting close, they're going to be like, what the heck? And it's going to be too late, because you already got your momentum. You coming, and you done picked up speed.
Yeah, for sure.
So first, outwork everybody and always treat everyone with love and respect, because you are a victim of the energy you put out.
What you get back.
Yeah.
For sure.
So always treat everyone with love and respect.
Absolutely.
No matter who it is. Always that, treat people right. And if you work hard and treat people right and have faith, the sky's the limit.
It's hard to be stopped there, brother.
You can't be stopped.
You know what I'm saying?
Especially when you have faith and nothing stopping you. And that's what we tell you. You believe you'll never stumble, and everyone who falsely prosecutes will stumble before they even get to you.
Absolutely.
And I walk by that. And that's where, when you have that faith, you walk a little bit different. You walk with a little bit different confidence when you know the most powerful King is with you at all times. If I'm walking with Him, I know what I do and what I say is going to work. He says everything you touch will prosper. So when it looks like it's not going to work, I know it's going to work, just not now.
So lately, like, as you know, we're growing in our occupations and growing away from athletics and growing into our professions, like, one thing that I live by is I'm promised today. You're not promised tomorrow. You're not promised a week from now. You're promised today. So that knowing that my life is in God's hands, and, knowing that I'm here to be able to serve, to be able to learn, and to be able to grow. I think of something all the time, and it's just, I'm promised today. And you are 100% in charge of how your days go. And I feel like it's hard for people to comprehend that sometimes, but it's the truth. Like, somebody can cuss you out, tell you you're doing terrible at your job or whatever, but if you sit there and you shrug it off, well, you can still have a good day. Like,
Cool. If
you could go home to some fresh cooked lasagna or like a pizza on the oven. Like, man, I'm blessed.
If you know you did everything in your part of it, but if someone say you suck, like, okay, I might suck, but I'm doing everything I can to get better. So I mean,
It's not failing, because failing is learning. It's not losing, because losing is just a setback. And for every setback, there's a larger comeback.
come on, man.
And, like, I don't know, just kind of lighten it up before we kind of, call it quits on this episode, man. I kind of got a nice little funny topic to cover.
I'm nervous.
You're a Florida guy. I know a lot of the Florida boys have some conspiracies. Specifically Oliver. Oliver 8 Ball, bro.
We're going in Ollie's direction. I love this.
And so, Oliver believes the Earth's flat. And I do have a specific question for you.
I just posted about this.
Are there any conspiracies that you do have, and if so, what?
First, I agree with Ollie. I do believe we live on a flat plane and we're inside of a sphere. After this, I challenge you to look at every picture of religions and how they depict the Earth. It's all the same, where we're all inside of a globe and we're on a flat plane. And first of all, people would do that because if that's true, the sun is also in the same hemisphere as us. Now, scientifically speaking, if that's true, we couldn't survive in the same hemisphere as the sun, right? So if that's true, then that would also make people know how real God is. And that's why what I tell you, this whole world is built off of deceit. And how does the devil fight? Off of deceit and deceive. Think of as a world, we align with God, right? I mean, our country.
Yeah.
In our Pledge of Allegiance, we say God, right?
Yep.
True or false, as a country, do we teach things that directly go against the word of God?
Yes.
That causes confusion. We live in, and that's why I don't judge anyone who doesn't have faith yet, because I know we live in a world that purposely makes it hard to find faith, because that's in the devil fights the deceit.
Yeah.
And
so
I agree with Oliver.
So with the upcoming eclipse, I've been seeing a lot of stuff about the rapture and the Book of Revelations and all that stuff, and I saw that you posted about the blood moon, and I see
this is just
stuff.
an opinion, by the way. If he's gonna, it's my opinion. That's all. It's not a fact.
So tell me what
I
you
think
believe
is coming?
and what is coming.
What I believe is coming, because the Bible says when it describes the eclipse, it's the first sign of the return of the Lord. It's not the end of the world, but it's the beginning of the end. I believe that the Messiah will be shown of who it is, and it will allow people to fully believe. It's a verse in Isaiah, which is a book with a lot of prophecies, describes the Messiah and other things. It also says there's going to come a time where he pours water on the lands and the dried up fields. Water is a symbol in the Bible for purity, the Holy Spirit. I believe that the solar eclipse will be a spiritual reset, upgrade to our hard drive, so to say, for those who don't believe. I think the Messiah will be shown and how real God is, and I believe after the eclipse it will be aftershocks of natural disasters, earthquakes, and all these other things. Just my opinion, though.
So before I kind of put a nail on this thing, I've been seeing something. You guys ever watched The Flash?
Yeah.
I watched a little. I watched like an episode.
Okay, so in this movie, the Flash gets his power, or in this TV show, the Flash gets his powers from the particle accelerator. Well, CERN is starting a particle accelerator to see if we have any dark matter and where dark matter comes from. And the theory has it is that if this particle accelerator goes off during the solar eclipse, then it could open up realms. That stuff is crazy.
First
to me.
of all, it's cool. It's a cool idea, but that's not true. I mean, that's an idea, but
there's plenty of ideas.
The only person that can
saying?
open the gates of hell is God. And he tells you he opens doors that man can't open and closes doors that man can't close. So that when them gates open, it will come a time, but only he will open it. He just wants 100%. One thing, I guess, advice: everything that we use, it all was an idea at the point. So try your ideas, test them, because everything that we use was all an idea at some point, and every idea is good, just the right person hasn't seen it yet. And everything can work. It's just when it works and when it comes upon the right eyes who can help you in the right way for you.
Absolutely. And, I mean, before we head off, obviously I want to say thank you to Meech, because he brought us these water bottles for Be The Change. Make sure you guys go check that out. He's really pouring a lot into this and spreading a positive message, and I believe it stands for a good cause. Meech, man, we just want to say thank you for coming out, taking that drive from Tiffin down here to Logan County and saying what's up, man. It's really good to see you, really good to catch up, and really, really cool to see what you're doing right now. And I know that I appreciate you, and I thank you for coming out today.
Man, thanks for having me. This was fun. I love having conversations with a real reason, and hopefully this conversation helps someone. Just
exactly.
one. And if you help one, that's enough for me. But it's good to see you, dog. And thanks for having. Nice to meet you.
Of course, man.
Nice to meet you as well. But No, this is fun. I love what you guys have going here. Just keep going, don't stop, and I'm excited to see who you guys have coming next. So.
Absolutely.
Good deal.